So let's come to the next franchise, and that's Kolkata Knight Riders. So they have shown faith in their squad. So based on the last season performance and change in captaincy, we expected that they will release a lot of players, they will make a lot of changes to the squad. But while going to the auctions, they didn't make so many changes. They stick to their core set of players, and once again we will see a similar flavor of Kolkata Knight Riders in Dre Russ and Sunil Narayan. They've also acquired Shakibul Hassan, but once again their problem is, will they be able to play all these players? How they will utilize Dreras? How they will utilize Morgan? How they will utilize DK? So let's start with how they are going to utilize Shakibul Hassan. Can Shakib and Narayan play in the same 11?
Let me answer your last question at the outset, because you brought the name out. Um, my MVP for KKR this year is going to be Shakib, and and I'll tell you the reasons as we discuss further. But uh, I don't think they can fit both Naren and Shakib in the same level. It
Mhm.
disturbs their balance big way, in my opinion, and in the teams that I am envisaging. So they to that answer, no, I don't see both of them playing together uh, this season.
Right. And they have a similar selection dilemma. So last season, towards the back end of the tournament, we saw Pat Cummins and Lockie Ferguson playing together, where they could actually utilize Pat Cummins in the initial overs, and where Pat Cummins can move the ball, and that's his skill set, and also the Loki Ferguson skill set towards the back end of the innings along with Shivam Mavi, and that really worked for KKR. But do you think that this season, in the beginning games, they can fit Cummins and Lockie Ferguson in the same 11, or they have to select one?
But before we go there, let's see, can they both fit in? I mean, last before they fit in, what was their biggest problem last year? Obviously, Dre Russ failing and not being able to accelerate towards that end, and also Dre Russ, the bowler, who was not able to give them his 2 overs at the depth. And if Dre Russ is able to, so the KKR's problem last year was they did not have good death bowling, and that is where they were struggling and trying to do all sort of combinations, and that's where Loki came into the picture, because they were initially Pat Cummins took some time to settle in, but towards the later part of the tournament I think he started getting a little better.
Right.
So if you look at it this year from a combination, they will expect from bowling standpoint Pat to bowl at least 2 overs, or if required all 3 overs at the in the power play itself. And if Dre is fully fit and up and running, 2 overs of Dre during the death. Combine that with the Indian combinations that they would go with Prasid Krishna getting at least a couple of overs or 1 over in the death, and Shivam Mavi or Varun Chakravarti. Between them, if they can get a combination, and Pat Cummins one, if they can get these four bowlers to bowl for last 5 overs, then they are set this year. But for that to happen, they need those two strong overs from Andre Russell. Uh, so far, the talks that we have been hearing from the dugout is that Andre Russell is fit to bowl and he's going to bowl this year. So far, I hope they are not trying to create an eye smoke screen for others. But if that's true, and if that is indeed correct, then if he gives them those 2 overs at the death, then their combination is pretty much sorted. Then they can go with pretty. In fact, they can go two different options at the top itself from a batting standpoint. They can go try to, instead of even trying to do 4, 5, 6 as the strong core, they can make that into 3, 4, 5 depending upon the starts that they get. So they
Right.
have a pretty good strong core, which they have not been able, they did not fire last year, but I'm sure this year they will. They have Shubman Gill, who's not an ex, and they're playing in all good batting pitches this year.
Yes.
So Shubman Gill is not an explosive sort of a starter. So why not pair him give him and say somebody like Nitish Rana. to tee off, because that will give both a right and left hand combination, and Rana can start explosively. And then that is where I think my MVP comes in at number three, if required, in most of the cases. So Shakib comes in, so that's your first overseas guy. And then for Morgan, DK, Dreras, your up to six is sorted. Then you have Cummins, seven. So you have all your four overseas players contingent done. Then you have the Indian contingent of Mavi, Varun Chakravarti, and Prasid Krishna and
Krishna.
others. Prasid. So this is your usual 11. But there's an interesting option that they can actually look in if Dreras is not able to contribute, or if he goes off injured, whatever. They have an equally good option in Ben Cutting. I am actually excited for Ben Cutting this year, and he has typically performed well for wherever. And I still remember his heroics for SRH. So
SRH. Right.
Ben Cutting is a good player, good buy that way. If they are able to fight, and if any of the other, if Shakib is injured, and if they need that explosiveness, and if Narayan, last year Narayan bowling was not that effective. So Narayan, the bowler, has lost his effectiveness. And except for that one out, I don't know if he scored that one game. I remember he scored, but outside of that, I don't remember any significant contributions with bat from Narayan, Sunil Narayan. So if Sunil Narayan is not in form, then Ben Cutting is a very useful option, either to replace Sakib or Andrew Russell. And then if you Kolkata is definitely playing three games, I think, in Chennai. In pitches like Chennai, they can rely upon somebody like Harbhajan Singh, who has played in Chennai, and who has been for CSK. So they can gain their experience getting somebody like Harbhajan in place of one of the Shivam Mavi or Prasid, depending upon how their forms are. Or they can look at a bat instead of Harbhajan. The other option could be Pawan Negi also. He's a good batter down the order as well. So I think they have their bases covered. But if and Ben Cutting can bowl during the last overs as well, slog overs as well, death overs. So they have their bases covered. But for that to come together, I think Grey Russ is going to be a big factor for them. They have covered their batting issues with Sakib in a big way, but Sakib doesn't give them the death bowling part of it. He addresses their top order uncertainty that was there because of Sunil Narayan, and he sort of plugs that gap. And but I don't. If Dreras is not fit, and if Ben Cutting doesn't deliver, they still have a big hole to fill in. Then they will have to force fit both Lockie and Pat Cummins in the same team to address their death bowling, and that means somebody, and Owen Morgan will play because he's the captain. And then there's only one more spot that is left, so they'll have to choose between Andre Russ. If Andre Russ is fit, then Andre Russ will play no matter what. So that's about it. So then it disturbs their combination.
Right. So when we talk about KKR, they can play with 10 players. So with with 10 players, they can work as if it's a 11 players team. So and they try to find that how they should utilize that 11th player, whether they they should play an extra batsman or they should play an extra bowler. Last time they tried with Rahul Tripathi, Rinku Singh, Kamlesh Nagarkoti, so many options. So when they were batting, they were feeling like we should have gone with an extra bowler. When they were bowling, they were feeling like we should have gone with an extra
Yeah.
batsman. So how do you think they are going to sort that issue? So their 11th player, whether to go with an extra batsman or an extra bowler, because this time they have acquired Karun Nair, someone like Gurkirat Man, and they also have last time's Rahul Tripathi. They have someone like Venkatesh Iyer who can also bat. And similarly, they have acquired a player called Vaibhav Arora. So we are hearing a lot about him, Vaibhav Arora, the new pacer, new KKRs found. So do you think they'll be tempted to go with a youngster, probably Venkatesh Iyer or Vaibhav Arora?
Of all the franchises, I think KKR has given the maximum youngsters a look in. But having said that, they have sort of pretty settled first 11. In fact, I still see KKR playing with somebody like Karun Nair or Rahul Tripathi coming in at number six for them. And they can even, the other option could be just go with your number one, two, and instead of Sakib at the top, they can go with Owen Morgan, DK, then Andre Russ and Karun Nair. Depending upon how the situation is in the innings, they can go with that. And then they can still fit in somebody like say Ben Cutting and or Lockie Ferguson, Pawan Negis of this world, but that would give them at least six proper batsmen. Sorry, five proper batsmen with Andre Russell, Pawan Negi. That will also still make it a little weak in their five, six, seven. Or they can include both Karun Nair and Sakib and make because Sakib is anyway Sakib and their biggest advantage is that their two big all rounders can definitely give them 4 overs,
Right.
so 8 overs between them. So that's their biggest advantage. So they need to technically carry three more bowlers only. So they can go all the way up to seven. They can go up to stock up their batting resources all the way to seven with Russ and Sakib in the same team, and last four being the pure bowling options. Even then, they will have six bowlers, so which is a great luxury that they have. So that is an approach they can take, and I think that is the approach that they will continue. They will at least begin the tournament with, because I think their first match is in. They are starting off or teeing off in Mumbai,
Right.
and high scoring area. So I believe they will stack up seven batsmen, including Sakib and Russ, and four bowlers.
Right. So do you
And
think
Pat Cummins is also a good batsman, decent batsman.
right? So do you think their biggest concern is going to be lack of a proper leg spinner in the playing 11 when
That is
they
going to be, yeah. They do not have a. Harbhajan is going to be a mentor sort of a player for them. So apart from Varun Chakravarti, they do not have a quality spinner in the team. And in pitches like Chennai, and that could be a difference between getting qualified for playoffs versus not. That is, those are the small minor differences along with run rates that define your progression. So that is an area that they will struggle, and that is an area they could have tightened a little bit. But if Sakib is in good form, in good bowling form, and if Varun continues to perform the way he has performed last year, I think they should be good. But for that to happen, they both should be firing on all cylinders right at out. And Narayan, all said and done, he has been a great servant to KKR. He has performed really well, and if he can retain some of that magic, and then they definitely, I mean, you cannot count out Sunil. He's an enigma, and we don't know which Sunil will turn up this year.
right? And there is another threat that we saw in the last season. So when the opening partnership works well and when Nitish Rana performs well for KKR, then they are in a selection dilemma whether to send DK at number four, whether to send Morgan at number four, or whether to send Andre Russell at number four. So do you think that this time also the roles will not be very clear when the top order will click, and the roles will be very clear for these three players when the top order won't click?
I think Morgan is a much more assertive captain. You have seen the way of him handling Alex Hales in the England setup. In spite of whatever it is, he has managed that, and then he has managed between Roy, Bairstow, and Butler to define an opening combination and who needs to play where and defining everybody's roles. So he will be an enforcer from a captaincy standpoint. So I think you will see much more solidity with respect to decision making, and that will reflect in their 11s this year. Last year, unfortunately, DK was thrown into a situation where uh, maybe he did not command the level of respect somebody like Dhoni or an Owen Morgan can command, and that sort of and it was, and that reflected midway in the tournament. That did change the captaincy, and I don't know for what reasons. They can say for whatever reasons, but from outside it looked this way. So I believe Morgan will fix that, and you won't see too many. uncertainty with respect to batting positions. And if Dreras gets promoted, that will be for a specific reason and a task, not because of anything else.
Right. So probably coming to the opportunities. So yes, there are a lot of youngsters in KKR squad. There are some experienced player, but when we talk about their bowling lineup, some young Indian names are there. Shivam Mavi, Prasidh Krishna, Kamlesh Nagarkoti, Vaibhav Arora. So at least two of them will get to play. So who is going to be your young? So I won't call them emerging players. So your young player to watch out for.
I personally wanted to see Kamlesh Nagarkoti perform well ever since his World Cup under 19 thing, Sojan, because I found him genuinely quick and a very good fielder and a decent batsman. But for whatever reason, injuries and everything, he has not been the same person, or maybe he has not adapted himself to the bigger stage, whatever it is. So I would love to see Kamlesh coming into getting a throw in and some point in time. But having said that, both Shivam Mavi and Prasidh Krishna especially, he just started playing for the country. Uh, Out of the three fast bowlers, I never expected Prasidh to be the first one playing for India. I thought because even KKR first backed Mavi and Shiva Mavi and Kamlesh more than they backed Prasad. And Prasad came in because I think Kamlesh got injured
Yeah.
and he found a route inside. So I want to see Prasad develop into a good, now that he has got the international experience, a taste of international cricket, develop into a stable bowler for KKR to the extent that when they try to retain the team for next year, he should be an automatic choice. So I want him to perform to that level, and I definitely want to keenly see the development of um, Shivam Mavi and Kamlesh. But there is one more person. He's not an emerging person anymore, but I want him to see how I'm going to watch him very closely. Is Nitesh Rana. He has been somebody who's been failing to deceive for such a long time. He is in the Surya Kumar Yadav mold, where Surya Kumar Yadav used to play something very similar when he was with KKR, but
Right.
goes to MI and he suddenly rediscovered everything. He's 30 years, so and he comes into thick of his form right now. So I think Nitesh has also a lot to prove this year, and he will get his chances. And I'm wishing that he performs well and he makes a case for himself.
Nitish Rana most runs and Prasidh Krishna most wickets, or your choices are different?
Most runs, I didn't think about that actually. Okay, the easier part is most wickets. I'll go with Cummins. Uh,
Okay.
because if Cummins fails, then they are in bigger problem. So I'll go with Cummins to be their leading wicket taker for this year, and I'm sure he will. Yeah, Cummins. And for runs, I'll go with Shubman Gill, even though he is not that explosive guy, but his performance, his stability at the top is very crucial for somebody like Morgan and Andre Russell to tee off at the later part of the innings. But if they keep losing 3 wickets in every power play in the first 7 overs, 6 overs, then no matter what, they're going to struggle to put up 180.
Right, right. So where do you see KKR ending up in this particular season? Now only three franchisees are left, and this is going to be an interesting one.
So I will bracket them along with RCB, and we will visit RCB KKR at the end.